Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. Welcome to our budget forum here. It is the 26th of April, and this is probably the 5th or 6th time we've presented, but we have some new information, I think, that maybe some of the people in this room haven't heard before. But before we go into the presentation, I do want to say we are broadcasting this out live on Facebook. So this is something new that we've done. We've done podcasts before. We've done Twitter forums before, but this live on Facebook is our first venture out into this. So hopefully there will be a lot of people at home with their Facebook open, watching the Kingston City School District and our budget presentation. So welcome to everyone at home as well. As I said, our budget vote will be this May 16th. And we have 4 things on the ballot this year. The first, and I'm going to speak about each one of them as we go through the evening. The first is obviously our budget. We put up every year, which again, that will be the bulk of what we talk about here tonight. The second will be the use of capital reserve funds for the renovation of the Mahar Elementary School, and then we'll talk about that more. The third is transportation limit for reducing students K through 6, reducing the distances that we pick students up. So if we pick students up for 1.5 miles, now we're asking the voters to approve for us to pick them up for a 1/2 mile K through 8. And last, we have 3 seats for the Board of Education that will be open, and we have actually about an hour ago was the end of the deadline for submitting petitions, so we will have the names of all the people who are running for the board out on the web tomorrow morning. Tax levy. We've been talking about this for months. It's our job to present a balanced budget to the voters every year, and we also, it's our job really, we feel it's our job to make sure we stay at or below the tax levy limit. This year, just to talk about the tax levy limit, the tax levy limit is 2%. 2% tax cap, 2% tax cap, 2% tax cap. That's what we hear. It is not a tax cap, and it's not 2%. It's a tax levy limit. It's a 6-step calculation that is different for every district every single year. So this year for us, it was a very low, 1.35 is our tax levy limit. But we work very hard to make sure we stay at that tax levy limit for many reasons. Again, to control our costs, to control our impact on our taxpayers, as well as to make sure that our taxpayers are eligible for the STAR incentives that, again, changed this year. We'll have more about that up on our website later on in the month, but there was a change to STAR this year. But still, we have to stay below that tax levy limit to make sure that our community and our taxpayers are eligible for that. So this year, we are proposing a budget for $169,581,541, which is an increase of about 4.9, just about 5% increase. We have received our estimated revenues increase to went up about 11%, and that is with a tax, and then that leaves our tax levy. Again, these revenues, what are these revenues? Because revenues are state aid. That's really what they are. We only have 2 sources of revenues for the most part: state aid and our tax base. So $68 million comes from our state aid, and $101 million, almost $102 million comes from our taxpayers, and that represents 1.35 increase from, as you can see, from last year's tax levy. That gives us our zero balance as far as our tax budget for this year. Anybody have questions about that so far? Go to the next slide. What are we spending that on? Okay, just to give you a breakdown of what we spend that on by percentages. Obviously, the majority of what we spend our money on in the Kingston City School District and all school districts, we're a people business. Our labor costs, 75% of that is labor. Then we have smaller costs throughout the rest of our budget: tuition, contractual, debt service, transportation, equipment, supplies. Each of them, again, less than 10% of our actual expenditures. What does this budget support? So I've been talking a lot about the budget, and we talk a lot about state aid and the governor's runs, and then what we actually end up getting. We did see we thought we would have about a $1.6 million gap in our budget when the budget was proposed by the governor. but we did receive some more aid. Did it close the gap completely? No. We still had to do something to add to those revenues. And what we did this year is we really filled the hole with about $700,000 more in fund balance. So we could balance the budget, but still continue to offer our students everything that we want to offer them. It wasn't an exciting budget year. I mean, last year was kind of exciting. We got a lot of money when the gap elimination adjustment was done away with, and we were able to still keep below the tax limit and add a few things. And over the last few years, we've been able to add things. What I think is important to remember and to know about this budget is we're not adding things, but we were able to maintain all those things that we added over the last 3 years. All those things that the board, and through our forums, we found out people thought were important, that they valued. I always say our goal is to balance the needs of our students with our community's values and their ability to pay. And I think this budget definitely does that. What this budget supports? Back in November, we did a budget forum, we had people here that night who came in, we asked them, what is important? What is the most important thing to you? What are the things you want us to make sure that we're not touching? What are the things that really you think are important? And this top list, that's really what we heard from people. They said, don't get rid of the advanced placement courses. As you can see, we have a significant number of advanced placement courses, more than anyone else in Ulster County is offered here in Kingston City School District. Music. People support our music and our arts program, and you see art is next. Not only our music classes, but our our other music, our performing arts, our bands, our choirs, our marching bands. So all those things remain in this budget. Athletics, 33 varsity teams, 14 junior varsity teams, 16 modified teams. We have more than 1,100 students participating in athletics in the Kingston City School District, and that means a lot. It really does. I mean, all our research shows us kids who are involved in arts, music, and athletics stay in school and graduate. So we use these things to leverage those kind of things, not to mention just create a well-rounded opportunity and education for our kids. Our PreK program this year, we have 48 students enrolled in the early college PreK program, which has been moved from the Carnegie back to the uptown Kingston, uptown campus of SUNY Ulster. So we're really excited about the opportunities for those students there. Ulster BOCES Career and Technical Program offerings, hundreds of our students go to the Ulster Career and Technical Center, and it's not the BOCES that we all remember. I was saying, it's not your father's Buick. This isn't your father's BOCES. This is high tech manufacturing, really looking at 21st century skills. Do they still have carpentry and those kind of things? Yeah, they do. But they're also adding many different things. Aviation. We had a student present the other day at a meeting, I think many board members read, about the aviation program that he's took, and he's now going to college, and he's going to be a pilot. I mean, it's just, he's really close to having his pilot license. It's not the career and technical that we used to know. It's a different, it's 21st century, and we have hundreds of students participating. Alcoa, our school-to-work partnership with Alcoa. One of the things that isn't really well known, and I don't know why in our community, is that we have a presence of Alcoa here in our community. 3 years ago, we went to them. We said we want to talk. They have high-tech manufacturing jobs. We have students. They needed employees. But one of the things they said to us was the kids aren't ready. They're not reading the manuals right. Those kind of things. What are those skills? So we said, okay, well, let's work together, create a curriculum for kids who can walk out of there and end up certificated and be able to walk in and say, hey, I can work in this high-tech manufacturing here in Alcoa. So we have that program. We, again, really cooperative with Alcoa. They help us with our curriculum. They come in and they work with the kids. They also gave us got a grant from the Alcoa Foundation, about $25,000 to write and maintain the curriculum. Social emotional supports, we had social workers, we had psychologists, we had counselors over the last 3 years. We know that we have the mental health issues in schools and social emotional needs of our students are increasing. And we know it. And just recently, the New York State passed a law that we have to have a mental health curriculum in place by 2018 for all the students in the Kingston City School District, all of New York State. So we will, I think we were ahead of that curve. Social emotional wellness and mental health for our students is something that we have been on for the last 6 years. Commitment to technology. We listed a couple of things, our video content capability in every classroom, multiple 3D printers, those kind of things that we're doing. What you see right here is in every single classroom in the Kingston City School District. Every teacher has this type of technology. Every teacher has a desktop. We're expanding our Chromebook program every year. So, really looking at lowering that student to device ratio in our buildings. And, when I go out to other districts and I speak to other superintendents and other curriculum people, they want to know how we've done everything we've done, and how we were able to really put the technology and the programming and the training in the hands of our teachers and our students. Special education supports, our goal is the least restrictive environment. You know, our goal is to make sure that students are delivered the curriculum in the least restrictive environment. We want to move away from a self-contained model and into an integrated model, and that's what we've done so over the last few years, making sure we have the proper supports to do that. So to just do it isn't going to help the students. We need to do it, and we need to have proper supports in place, which we've been able to do through the budgets over the last 3 years, and this budget maintains. Appropriate class sizes. The Board of Education has remained steadfast that K through 2, 22 students or fewer. And we've been able to maintain that for 2 years. This budget allows us to maintain that again. And extracurricular activities other than sports and music. We have 140 clubs in our high school offered to our students. So making sure our students have things to do after school, making sure they're invested and they're brought into our school district is important. Just a budget summary of the functional areas. As you can see, these are really your largest areas here, and the increases on each. Last year's budget, this year's budget. I think it's important to take a look at the tax levy over the last few years. Since the tax levy, 2012, 2013, so I don't go back as far as the tax levy, I go back as far as I've been here. And what we've done since 2012, 2013 is not only stayed at the tax levy limit, but most of the time we're below the tax levy limit, and just showing, fiscal responsibility and understanding of, what I said about our goal, balancing our students' needs with our community's values and their ability to pay. So you can see, and if you look over these 5 years, we had stayed, basically we were just about a little over 1% below the tax levy limit on average. The only time you see that we were always below, except where we're at, were when we had these some low tax levy limits, 1.35, 1.51. We did go to the tax levy limit, but we did not exceed the tax levy limit. And in some cases, as you look here, not even close. Second proposition that I'm talking about is repurposing the school at Mahar to have a dual purpose. To really have a dual purpose. We're going to talk about our pre-K center first. What we would like to do is build a program there to bring our 4-year-olds into the fold, more 4-year-olds into the fold. We currently have a UPK program. We work with our community partners who serve about 270 of our 4-year-olds district-wide. We want to grab those other ones, the kids who aren't getting high-quality pre-K. The research shows us students who get high-quality pre-K are more likely to come to school prepared in kindergarten, and then if you follow them down the line, more likely to graduate from high school. And anyone who knows me knows the number one thing I talk about all the time is graduate. Graduate, graduate, graduate. That's our end game here for all of our students. We are not looking to replace our UPK with our partners. We want them to continue doing what they're doing. They're delivering high-quality pre-K to those students, but we want to deliver it to other students who aren't necessarily getting that. And really we want to focus. We want to focus on our students who are living in poverty and our students who are English as a second language. So we're developing a program to work with those students, not replace, add to what we're doing. Just a quick illustration. I was trying to think of the word that you told me the other day.
Infographic.
Infographic. Anyways, there's a quick infographic. I don't know how to speak as well as Mrs. Heidecker. Infographic here, which basically says that for every $1 we spend on pre-K, these 3 studies show us these are our returns on investment. $8.75, $3.78, $10.15. For every $1 that we invest in a student, we're saving that over the course of their life, pretty much, by paying for that pre-K, by eliminating the needs for things like special ed, things like remediation, things like behavioral specialists. Then when they get out later in life, things like unemployment, imprisonment. These are things that we save by making sure kids have high quality pre-K education. So what does that mean? Renovate Mahar, what does that mean overall? So what it means is taking a look at renovating Mahar, moving not only our pre-Ks over there, expand our pre-K program, but also moving the administrative infrastructure here, personnel, not really infrastructure and infrastructure, personnel from here into Mahar and putting this building on the market to be sold. We know that there is a market for this building. Obviously, anyone who lives in Kingston, and you all do, knows that there's an uptown resurgence, and this building is highly marketable. Mahar is not. Mahar is not a highly marketable property necessarily. So to move from here to Mahar and to do the Mahar project does many things. First thing it does is gives us the opportunity to expand our pre-K program. Second thing it does is really revitalizes a school in the neighborhood that's been vacant for 4 years. Third thing it does is allows us to put this building on the market and put it back on the tax rolls. Not to mention add to the economic kind of boom we're seeing here in Uptown Kingston. We already know that there are very interested other parties in this building, and we think as soon as the board decides, which I'm assuming if this is approved, not assuming, I know that this is approved on May 17th, the board will put this out to bid, and we will be able to really talk to the community about what the building will sell for. So, why do this? Well, we have two choices. We can stay here at Crown Street, and we can put about $3 million into this building, because that's what it needs, and I'll show you that in a second. Or we can go to Mahar, spend a similar amount of money, and reap all those benefits. And long term, the community reaps those benefits as well. This building on the tax rolls and a business in this area, adding to the business that we already have, maybe even spurring other businesses opening, will be long-term benefits to our community. So what are the things that need to happen here in Crown Street? Well, we need new boilers. The heating system is old. Many people who've been in meetings here will tell you that. Our computer room, if their computer room is hot, anyone knows anything about computers, we lose our infrastructure, or we lose our computer infrastructure, which is here runs our entire district. New roofs, gutters, 3-point bricks, windows, floors. Windows are original. Floors, I don't know if they're original, but they're pretty old. Windows, flooring, we're required, if we're going to stay here, we're required to put in an elevator under ADA. Site blacktop repairs, we did some of them, but we need extensive more. Miscellaneous plumbing and electric work. I can show you in the restroom in my office. We definitely need some plumbing work. We have about $3 million. Our architect said there's about $3 million worth of work that needs to be done here. So we can stay here, do $3 million worth of work, not put this building up for sale, not put this building on the tax rolls, and Mahar remains empty. Also, not on the tax rolls. Or we can spend a similar amount of money and we can renovate that building, put this building on the tax rolls, and again, reap the benefits that we feel we would get by moving to Mahar. The entire project would have zero impact on the local taxpayer. So we'll be using our reserve funds, proceeds from this building, and also one of the things that's not here, because we're estimating at this point, is we're estimating a minimum of about $600,000 in state aid for doing this project as well. So really, after you put in the state aid, we're actually going to spend less to move to Mahar than we will to stay here.
Pre-K students that are going then to Mahar, is that in this year's budget or will that be in next year's budget?
We're about 24 months out. It'll probably be 24 months between.
So that would be an increase of the budget at that point in time?
At that point in time, yes.
All right.
Yeah, we're about 24 months out. By the time we get, by May 17th, if we're approved, we go to state aid with our plans. They have a lengthy approval process, and then construction, we think probably 24 months. Last thing on our ballot, again, like I said, we have 3 open seats. For the Board of Education, we'll announce the names tomorrow when we have when the clerk of the board has all the petitions and tells me the names. And this is for a 3-year term. So anyone who's turned in their petitions will be running for a 3-year term in the Kingston City School District Board of Education. Meet the Candidates Night. We'll have a Meet the Candidates Night for people who are running on May 9th. 6:30 at Kingston High School in the auditorium.
Is it 2017?
It's definitely not 2016. It's definitely 2017.
I apologize.
if you would, I mean, if you could go there. So, yeah, on May 9th, we will have it at 6:30 at King, yeah, we've done this presentation 6 times, it's the first time, so, at Kingston High School, 6:30. A couple other important dates. Monday, I'll be presenting over at the Birches Chambers Senior Center. Then we'll have another budget hearing. We'll have a budget hearing at 5:30 at Crown Street. That'll be the last budget hearing right before the board meeting. And then on May 9th, we have Meet Candidates Night. And May 16th, the most important of all, is the budget vote, the Board of Elections, or Board of Education election. Any questions?
Can you go back to that slide with the budget that shows the areas of increase?
Yep.
What's the bulk of that area? That's spread pretty much evenly. isn't it?
You can see about half of it is in the employee benefits.
All right, are the union members chipping in for their medical?
The union continues to be in the Kingston Teachers Federation Trust. And that arrangement really is about lowering a rate from a set rate that is used regionally. Now, we are in conversation with the teachers about this year and this year's health insurance. They've come to the table, and I think by, maybe by the end of next week, I'll be coming to the board to talk about some concessions that they've already kind of discussed with me. We're just kind of ironing out details. So I think there will be some assistance from the Kingston Teachers Federation around the health insurance costs.
When I look at the Kingston Freeman article that indicated the budget and where you were obtaining your money from, both from the tax levy and from the New York State aid. If I took last year's budget, $161 million, and I saw that the difference of what you received relative to aid from New York State, which was $7,440,000, and I added that in there, you were already at 169 plus million. I'm trying to figure out where that 1.35 percentage unit is coming from. I mean, if you netted that out, it would be only a $500,000 or thereabout increase to the budget.
I know what you're saying.
Start over.
What number?
Go back to your first page. You had 161,598,000 last year, okay? And this year, the state offered you 65,565, I think was what the, just let me go.
Yeah.
65,565 on, the state aid, okay, which was an increase of $7,440,000 over last year. This is according to what the Kingston Freeman gave, okay? If I add that 7,440 to the 161,598, I come in over 169. And I'm just, that's why I'm here. One of the reasons I said, okay, I don't understand why the 135.
Looks like Mrs. Woodard is chomping at the bit to answer. Go ahead, please.
The runs that were, I'm assuming you're talking about the state aid runs that the state ran, and they ran the Freeman for all districts? Is that the legislative
Yeah,
proposal?
it was in the paper here. It was just, it was part of the statement based on our budget here.
Right, some of those aids, and in particular the building aid, are based on information that the state aid has, but they're expense-driven aids. So if you have, and in this case, I believe the first run had building aid of $7 million, and the second run had building aid of $6 point something million.
Yeah, the only one I saw was this one,
In the
sorry.
building aid portion of the state aid run. Now that building aid depends upon when you file a certificate of substantial completion and all your contractors have been paid. But if you have a project that has been submitted to state ed, they will calculate building aid on that. So that number included building aid with the assumption that our high school project will be finished next year. and that's not gonna happen, because they changed the law in 2011, and
I
you
remember
cannot
that.
get building aid until the project is complete.
Right.
So, we will file for an early aid start on that, but that won't kick in until next year. And so we are recognizing some of that building aid that was on the state aid run, but not all of it. So that's one of the reasons that our state aid, that our revenue number went up by 10%, was there was a good portion of that that will be attributed to part of the high school project being complete, but the state numbers included expenditure-based aid ratios that we will not be recognizing. And if we didn't if we took the state aid number and we put that in our budget and we didn't have those things filed next year, we wouldn't get that money.
Okay.
So we
No,
would come up
saw
with a
the chart.
shortfall.
It was they said, they indicated in the paper, it was a 12.8% increase over last
I think
year's
that's
state aid.
what number, because the state runs that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what the state does, when we get our, when they get that, when the paper gets that run comes out publicly,
Right.
what there are a lot of those expense-driven aids. So what's an expense-driven aid? Expense-driven aid is an aid that we get back after we spend on something. I'll use transportation, for example. So this year we'll pay the bills for our transportation, and this year's transportation bills will be aided in next year's. So they're calculating that aid in March.
I'm
And
totally
they won't-
unfamiliar with that.
Yeah,
I'm just,
right.
I'm using Joe Basic analysis.
Absolutely, and I think most people do, and that's one of the things that we
Right.
struggle with, to communicate that, because they're really estimating what our aid will be for our transportation, or for our building project. They're using what they think we could do this year because we've submitted the reports, but.
Because New York State presumably gave you enough money that said your budget's going up by 5%, that's a fairly substantial amount for an increase, because I don't know what the number of students you have today. Is it increasing, decreasing, remaining flat, or is it?
We're decreasing, we're not in that free fall that we were in before.
You were in a couple of years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, we're not in that free fall that we were in before. We're decreasing small numbers of students.
Is there a number for? the
Yeah,
number
we
of
probably lost about 90 students this year. I mean, I'd say that's a rough number, but I'd say about 90 students.
students? What is the school population for that?
The school population is about 6,235 students.
Thank you. The only reason I took a look at it was I said, yes, we're at almost $170 million, okay? And this is the year that we had a 5% increase in the budget. And I use these stupid things that I do. And I said, okay, if I took 3% for the next 6 years, I'll be well over a $200 million budget. I'm sorry, that's what I'm looking at, okay? That's significant when you take a look at the local taxpayers. The thing that I want to ask is, that 65 or whatever you got from New York State, is that sustained year after year, or do they improve on that? Because if you don't, then it's going back up to the taxpayer.
Well, it's not, we don't know. That's the bottom line. We don't know. There's a thing called foundation aid. You've probably heard me talk about foundation aid before. And foundation aid, there used to be a foundation aid formula, which is a formula that was predictable and that we knew we could figure out what we were getting year to year. That was passed into law, it was supposed to happen, then they stopped it. And now we are kind of at the whim of whoever's creating this number for us. Really what we're looking at is our foundation aid, our operation aid, which is not our expense-driven aid. And we don't know, it's different year to year, so we don't really know. But we have received, I'd say, it's never gone down.
Okay, that's one good thing.
It hasn't gone down.
Right.
Other than the year of the elimination adjustment, which they still didn't really consider that, the aid, going down. But yes, aid increases every year.
Yeah, I worry, based on the fact that whether it be 10% or 12.8% that the state gave us, that even if it stays stable now, you've got that extra $7 million, which you presumably need to continue forward. From this point forward, if you need to sustain any upgrowth, it's going to be borne by the taxpayer.
Yeah, and I think that's this figure. That's us staying at that.
Concern.
Yeah, that's us staying at that tax levy limit, making sure that we do what we can to moderate that growth. And the tax levy limit is what was legislatively put in there to assist in that. Now, is it going to do the whole thing? No, you just put it out. But it is, and I think us staying you know, having that low tax levy limit, staying at that tax levy limit or below, which we have, is, you know, is an effort to keep that from really escalating.
I think that one of the things that Larry alluded to was relative to trying to get some of the benefits portion of that, to help spread some of that. And I know that's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I think that we've had a really good conversation with the teachers, and I think they understand this year when health insurance was, you know, not something that anyone expected. But we've had a good, productive conversation, and I think, you know, we'll have a good agreement for now and moving forward for a few years.
Thank you.
What was your graduation rate last year?
Thank you for asking that. Our graduation rate last year was 83%, which is the highest it's ever been in the Kingston City School District.
Oh, I thought it was 84 the year before.
It was 83 point, no, this year was our highest. That's ever the year before, I think it was 82.3 or something like that, yeah. But this year was the highest it's
And
ever
you're
been.
expecting what for this year?
This year, just asking the same exact thing. We are, I just don't want to say this, but, because I don't want to, but we're expecting to be over 85.
All right, good. Yeah, the only problem I got is you divide, you look at the cost per student and it's unbelievable.
You know, the cost per student in New York, and I'm not, you know, and not, I know we're talking about our district, but the cost per student in New York is higher than any other state in the country. You know, school, you know.
And attributed to what?
Attributed to so many things. Attributed to.
Oh, no,
yeah.
I'm sure you can,
Well, we can
Boil
nail
it
it down.
down.
Obviously, you know, attributed to things. There are a lot of things. I mean, the mandates. I mean, the mandates from the state on school districts in New York are unbelievable. The unfunded mandates, as they call them. I mean, we have, you know, expenses around special ed, expenses around, you know, obviously around personnel, expenses around different things that we have to do. You know, we have 151, I think the last time we counted was 151 unfunded mandates in schools. Things from as small as AEDs to as big as, you know, the Triborough Amendment to the Taylor Law. I mean, these are things that, you know, impact how we do business and what it costs us to do business.
a few years ago, I offered, we both went down and seen Mr. Lark. He was willing to come up here and discuss mandates and look for suggestions. And when we offered that, we got no takers, okay? If mandates are a problem, then maybe we ought to.
The governor created a mandate relief group, right, 3 years ago. He put a commission together. And what happened was he said, send us your mandates. So he received 65 mandates that school districts said, you know, these are 65 of those mandates that we don't agree with.
And?
Right.
Okay.
We never even received a response. The Mandate Relief Commission did nothing. They eliminated no mandates. They didn't even put out a report, if I believe, I think I remember it correctly. So, you know, and again, you know, I think depending on where you're talking, every mandate is probably has a good intention behind it. But there needs to be, you know, mental health curriculum for every student in Kingston City School District, September 2018. We need to develop it, we need to deliver it, right? There's no funding behind that. None. So there's a new mandate coming in 2018. Because the best place to put those mandates are in the schools, right? Because we have the kids. So there's no funding behind those kind of things. And they come, none of them ever fall off, and new ones always come out.
And two other questions, then I'll
Bless you.
that cost per student, I mean, we're gonna be in deep trouble if the state well, even if they don't cut back, even if they maintain a level.
And one of the other things we're looking at, and when we look at our cost per student, it costs us, when we're looking at PreK, cost per student of a special education student is significantly higher than cost per student of a regular education student. Significant number of students come to school unprepared and are mislabeled as special education. If they come to pre-K, now a student comes into kindergarten, they don't know their numbers, they don't know their letters, they don't know shapes, you know, they can't letter identify, they don't know shapes, they don't necessarily, they're not ready for kindergarten. Many times,
Right.
there's the belief that that student has a learning disability. They don't necessarily have a learning disability, you know, and I think that having a pre-K program where students come prepared will decrease the number of students that we are referring to special education and decreasing our cost per student.
But
That's really, I mean, so there's a front-end cost to doing that, but I think the long-term, you know, as we showed, that the long-term benefits of that will keep us from those
Okay, but
areas.
that gets to my next question, and that's, are we doing any more with trying to work with those parents who are out there holding 2, 3 jobs down and aren't focusing the attention that there should be on the kids, which then dumps it in your lap?
Yeah, I think pre-K is part of that. You know, pre-K is part of that program.
Well,
You know,
with
getting
the
those
kids,
early.
but I mean, I'm talking about more involvement with the parents.
Yeah, I think parent involvement, you know, we go through our DTSD tenets, and one of them is parent involvement, and trying to get those parents. And again, the parents who are talking about, parents who are working 2 and 3 jobs, those are the parents that are the most difficult for us to reach, and not because they don't want to be reached, but because they are working 2 or 3 jobs and they have a child. So I think, you know, looking at how we are, you know, not only working with parents, but how we are working with students, understanding where they're coming from and what they're bringing into school so we can reach them effectively has actually been the focus of our entire academic school year. The social emotional wellness, we did a school district-wide book study of a book called Engaging Students with Poverty in Mind, looking at our free or reduced lunch students. This is the highest we've ever had in Kingston City School District, 63%. We've never been near there before. You know, so our students who are coming to us, you know, from poverty is more than ever.
Well, that's why it's so important to get the community, the parents involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the goals of our, you know, we put our goals out there. It's one of our goals, and one of our tenets here is that parent involvement. And so we are always looking for new and different ways to get parents involved and get to them. You know, a couple of our middle schools did their parent-teacher nights down in community centers. We worked this morning all day, actually. A team of about 40 people worked with the group out at NYU who's up here helping us out with a few issues. And one of the things we talk about there is how can we better engage parents and understand parents who are exactly in the situation that you're talking about. So I think we're working toward more engagement with parents. And that's one of the things that everyone says is, you know, well, engaging parents is the problem. And it is the problem, but it's a problem we have to solve.
Okay.
What is the cost of the regular ed student compared to a special ed student?
Off the top of my head, I'm not going to be able to give you numbers. I mean, Mr. Olson might be able to, but it's about 3 times the cost. Any other questions? One thing I did miss that I wanted to talk to you a little about, just to add on to the project for Mahar. Taking that $4.3 million out of reserves will leave us in our reserve, capital reserve, with with $5.3 million. We also have another $5.3 million that we still have from our Smart Schools funding that we got 2 years ago. So we still have that, which also can be used for infrastructure in our district. So we still are looking at still having about almost $11 million in reserves that we can do work in our schools. The Board of Education has directed me to present them a plan for using that to do the work on the schools that's been recommended by our architects on our 5-year survey.
Go ahead.
So
Is
that's-
always the intent to keep what's called a slush fund, you know, for that purpose? I mean, do you like to keep like 5 million? You know, if that money is sitting there and it isn't being used, it's not doing us any good, again.
Right. And we actually, by law, you know, we have to ask the voters to establish the fund. Ask the voters for the amount of money we can put in the fund, and when we have 10 years to spend that money. It doesn't get replenished.
Right.
You know, every time we have 10 years to spend that money, then we have to come back to you again and say, can we open this reserve fund? So so we have to spend it in those 10 years, and that's what we'll do. I mean, it's well planned out actually with the business office of how we can save and spend and save and spend, and then go back to the voters to ask to start moving that, you know, opening that reserve fund again.
Did you say there's still going to be 5.3 left in the reserves?
Yes.
And how much are you spending out of that?
We are spending 4.2.
Out of the, no, not out of the reserves.
Well, we, technically out of the, yes, out of the reserves, because that money is gonna come out before we get any proceeds from this building, or before we get the state education fund aid.
So those are different numbers than the other night, last week. So So you're saying we still
Same
have,
slide.
we still have 9.5 million in that?
Right now, in that
Right now.
reserve, yes, we still have a little over, about $9.5 million, maybe $9.6 million.
That's not what the sheet showed the other night, is it? Not even close.
So the net cost of Mahar is the 3.3 million. So the way we've been thinking about it, we have 8 million in the capital reserve right now. So subtracting out the net of 3.3 million leaves 4.7 million. The other fund that Dr. Padalino was talking about, the Smart Schools Fund, has 5.3 million in it. So 4.7 plus 5.3 is $10 million. So between those two funds, if you look at it on a net basis, there's about $10 million. Now the Smart Schools Fund has some restrictions as to how we can spend it, as does the capital fund. And, you know, again, as Dr. Padalino said, we're hoping to, you know, combine those things and use them in the right way so that we can, you know, leverage them to continue on our renewal of facilities that require it. And Lord knows, between the 10 schools we have, there's always something.
I don't think the Smart Schools Fund was mentioned the other night, that's
No,
why
it
you're.
wasn't.
No, but the audit only showed, I thought 5, in the audit report, I thought it only showed like 5 or 7. I'm just looking it up right now.
Oh, in the treasurer's report?
In the audit, it showed the reserve fund.
Oh, in the
Well, there's a number
in the
of,
district
there's a number of
finance
reserve
statement?
funds.
No, it was the
Capital
capital,
reserve?
yes.
Because the money was not $3 million was allocated, but it wasn't until the August board meeting where the
Right.
board appropriates the funds from the previous year's fund balance. So at that point in time, I don't know exactly what number you're talking about where, but
Because the audit was of the books prior to the allocation of the other money put into the
that
fund.
could be, I mean, you're looking at the cash balance.
Mr. Ford?
I want to take a minute. I came to learn something, and I have learned quite a bit. I am also a host on WKNY Speak Out every single Saturday morning, and I would invite any one of the board members or administrators to come on. I have the privilege of inviting who I want to come on. This last week we had Dr. Reinhardt on, who did a wonderful job talking about what's going on at the high school. So if any of you would like to come on, I would certainly love to have you. And you will not find that every caller that calls in agrees with you.
You're right.
I don't agree with everything that
It's a
they
good program,
say when
it
they
truly is
call
a
in.
good program.
But my whole aim is to promote Kingston's history. This is why I'm prejudiced here, because I have a big history right in this building. But if it has to go at least to a different venue, why, it's better than having it torn down and made into a parking lot. So, I have to do what I can do. But some of the finances that come from the trust fund, or the grant fund, the only grant that I knew when I was growing up in Kingston was a store. So you guys are a little younger than I am, and if you didn't have grants coming in, you'd be in deep doo-doo, I think, because everything has to go to Albany for approval, or go to the federal government for approval, and then you wait sometimes 15 years for an answer to what you're trying to do. And I would worry about the condition of all of these governments right now, state and federal, and even local. But that you might be very careful with your finances and don't go out on a limb as far as being responsible for it. But other than that, I thank you for letting me come, and I wish you all the best. You know that.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Other questions?
How much,
Mrs. Shearer?
We're in our second five-year plan now, and you're talking about plans, you know, maintenance, and any idea of how many millions have been spent with no impact on the taxpayer, because this came out of reserves and we've maximized our state aid to make many infrastructure repairs. We went through the list at the meeting the other night, but how many millions of dollars does that represent? It's millions and millions of
It's
dollars.
about $14 million. You know, since the 2013 ballot that allowed us to do, you know, that passed that first group of projects. But I think last time we had a form I went through, you know, and it was, you know, the things that we looked at weren't things that everybody sees every day. They weren't new gymnasiums or auditoriums. They were roofs, they were boilers, they were windows, they were wiring, they were ADA compliance. They were, you know, safety issues as far as heat and those kind of things. So we were working on, you know, the envelope and the you know, mechanical systems to make sure that we have a tight roof and that we have heat on in the buildings and those kind of things. So it was and that we are ADA compliant as well. Again, another thing that we have to make sure regulation, we have to make sure we are ADA compliant. So we had a lot of parking lots, sidewalks, things like that we had to take care of. We spent about $14 million over the last 5 years doing that work. You know, I always tell people it's even asbestos abatement, another big ticket item in those. Our buildings are filled with asbestos. You know, it was what was used to build back then. We spent $3 million on the new roof in Miller. I mean, it's $3 million for a roof on Miller, but you know, it's a big building. So yeah, we've done a lot with with those funds. Again, that's what we're looking to do. Moving on this next 5-year plan that was submitted by our architects and required by the state, by the way, the plan. Okay, well, I thank oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you how the program was going at George Washington.
How the Montessori program is going at George Washington? We continue to monitor student achievement in the building. You know, we'd like to see some improvements in areas. I mean, we think that, you know, our Children's House does a lot of great things there. I think we have a big bilingual program there. It's one of the schools where we have our highest number of students who speak, you know, language other than English.
Right.
But we continue to monitor it and make, you know, and look to make adjustments where we can, where we see there are areas where we want to see improvement. We're expecting here, you know, at the end of the year, actually, the next meeting, Ms. Hannah will be presenting to the Board of Education about her year at GW, and we said in June we continue to look at the data. If we see things that we think need to be fixed, we're going to go figure out, you know, what they are and how we can try to do that.
So you're basically gonna keep the program and just improve on it?
As of this
Is that the
moment,
intent?
I'd say that was our intent, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Don't forget to vote May 16th. And if you don't know where you're voting, you can tell your friends. And if you don't know where your voting area is, go on our website and you can find your polling place.